I'm guessing at this point in time, and certainly you can learn more as your career goes along. I'm guessing at this point in time, McDaniels is kind of what he is. Did McDaniels learn anything between Denver and Vegas, Keefe? Doesn't seem like it.
No. And he did stop at St. Louis.
And I remember hearing a lot of, well, Josh McDaniels is a different guy. He learned from Denver. He grew from Denver. Turns out he got fired his second year in Vegas because he was still alienating players and still the same guy. Something tells me this guy is no different, and that's personality-wise and in terms of scheme. I don't think it's going to change at all.
No, but the hope would be the player is what changes.
Well,
rather than it being, Sam Bradford, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, it's Drake Maye.
So that could totally be it. And I believe that's there's potential for that. That has nothing to do with McDaniels. I don't think his offense is going to look Andy Reid-like. Like, I don't think there's going to be that kind. Just because he watched one Chiefs practice, I don't think it's going to look like that.
And I also don't know what exactly it's going to look like anyway, meaning look at the rest of the staff around him. So you got Mike Vrabel as the head coach, but then look at all the offensive coaches that are on staff. They all have ties to Vrabel. And then you have a guy like Thomas Brown, who was with McVay. You have, Doug Marrone, who at one point was doing his own thing, and Todd Browning was doing his own thing. I'm pretty interested to see what it even looks like anyway, because I don't think you have all of those guys as the assistants if you're classic McDaniels offense. Isn't it going to have to be different than what it was? Isn't he going to have to? I don't know if your doors are going to be blown off.
This is what I was just going to say.
It's going to have to change anyway.
Could it look a little different? Sure. I guess my doors are going to be blown off.
I think my doors will stay on
because he watched one Chiefs practice.
No, so Chiefs good team to watch.
Something
Ohio
tells
State?
me.
Well, then just get Chip Kelly then. If you like the Ohio State offense so much,
something tells me that's not going to be the case.
No.
So, can Drake Maye be helped by Josh McDaniels? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't like that hire as much as a lot of people I know you don't either. But maybe he'll help. He'll certainly be better for him than the offense was last year with Alex Van Pelt.
I was going to say, McDaniels is better than Van Pelt. Vrabel is light years better than Mayo. So, the head coach, I think, also helps in this sense, too. I think he can get more out of the quarterback. He even said on his first press conference, talking about, in-game stuff and, clock management and, things like that. So he's not going to be calling all the plays. That's McDaniels' thing. But just, how to play quarterback in the NFL, I think you're going to get a lot more out of Mike Vrabel than you would Gerard Mayo. So, the whole package of coaches should be a significant upgrade for Drake Maye.
And since you said that, because I think Vrabel will help Drake Maye situationally, one thing I like that Drake said, and I watched a bunch of these interviews yesterday. I think it was the Good Morning Football one. I forget where it was. And he did a bit of a media blitz yesterday, talked about recruiting players at the Pro Bowl, et cetera.
Yeah.
One thing he acknowledged that I feel like he kind of fought last year, and we would point this out and highlight it here and there, were the turnovers. I remember him being asked about it last year, and he's like, no, I don't think I have a turnover problem. And he seemed like a little stubborn and dug in on that.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, even just early on with Vrabel, if they've already told him, hey, we gotta get this cleaned up. And I don't know how much correspondence he's had with those guys or overlap or anything beyond just cursory meetings.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if that's already something they're drilling into him. Hey, you will take care of the football.
Yeah.
Whereas Mayo, like everything else, kind of brushed it all off to the side. And was you're fine. Yeah. You're young. You'll figure it out.
Ball security is job security until it really isn't.
That struck me as a little different already under Vrabel, but he's got to do it on the field. We ranked our top 10 quarterbacks for 2025. We'll circle back to that coming up. James in Kennebunk wants to weigh in. Go ahead, James.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
So I just wanted to tell you guys that I think that if Elliott Wolf can grow a pair this year, I think that Drake Maye can really turn it around. I think that they got a lot of assets this year, and I think that this offseason they got a lot to work with. And I think that especially having Cooper Kupp available and T. Higgins, they got to get one of those guys for Drake Maye for sure, because that's something that they got to do is they got to upgrade the wide receiver position. And then there's also Myles Garrett available. I think getting him would also upgrade Drake Maye because he'd get the ball back in his hands more often.
Yeah, better defense would help Drake Maye. We've talked about...
I'll take all those players.
We've talked about Myles Garrett, Cooper Kupp, and T. Higgins.
All right, let's do this.
I would sign off on any of those.
All right, Patriots offense for next year. Based on points per game, that's how we usually look at it. We're like, this team is the best and this team is the worst. Like Josh McDaniels with the Rams was the worst. What sort of best case, realistic best case scenario where they rank, and then what is realistic worst case scenario?
Rank?
For points per game.
I mean, middle of the pack?
See, I think they could be higher. I think.
What would you say, 10th?
Yeah,
like that.
maybe. I mean, the Mac Jones year, they were like 7th somehow.
No, it's
weren't
true.
they like really high? Like,
yeah.
You can kind of spike it in a couple of weeks.
They had like some Jeremy Swayman style games in there where they popped like 50 against the Jaguars that really changed the overall number, but it still counts at the end
10,
of the day.
Like, I think 10 is a optimistic yet somewhat realistic goal to set out for.
The absolute ceiling is they're the 10th highest scoring offense in
Yeah.
football.
I think
might go a little lower than that, but fine. I'll go to 10. Fine.
Floor 23?
Yeah, I mean, low.
22? Somewhere in there.
The floor is low.
Like, so most likely we're thinking middle of the pack offense in year one, which is you got to start somewhere. Like they certainly weren't middle of the pack offense last year.
And I'm doing air quotes here. If you're watching along on twitch.tv, you see them.
Yeah.
But
you can hear them too through the radio.
If you're going to 15 or 16 points a game, that's not where you want them. That's not a finished product, but that would represent real progress.
They were 30th this year.
Offense.
Yeah.
That's not good.
They were 31st the year before.
Yeah.
So hopefully they're not 29th. We're not going to be here all day.
Do you agree with the caller that Wolf needs to grow a pair? I don't know if that's how I'd phrase it in terms of going out and spending in free agency.
It's kind of sexist. If anything else, I don't think that's really what you need to be a good GM anymore.
You're thinking like it's Biden's America still now. Keep it's Trump's America. You can talk this way now.
Hell, you want.
You can say whatever it is you want.
No, I don't think Elliott Wolf had. I don't think he has a huge say this year.
Yeah,
I'm subscribing to Kraft's money, but then Vrabel and Cowden's players.
That's fine. I don't look at it and go, the reason the Patriots didn't have any players is Elliott Wolf needs to grow a pair last year. No. I don't look at it that way. I go, Kraft needs to spend.
Well, not to defend Wolf, but wasn't he offering the most money for Brandon Ayuk? Wasn't he in on all these guys?
I'm not going to play that game. I will say Kraft was willing to sign off on that.
Not to defend. I gotta listen to the whole thing.
I think Kraft
guy loves Wolf.
Was willing to offer the most money, but were they willing to go all the way to do whatever it took to get Ayuk? No. And I would still blame ownership for that.
Or Calvin Ridley or whatever. It was not about finance.
Well, Ridley they definitely didn't have the best offer for Ridley. That one's not even up for debate.
No, they did not.
Ayuk, they reportedly had the most money on the table for Ayuk.
That was unfortunate. You just got used in that. Ayuk wasn't leaving. He was staying there.
If you make it worth everybody's while, he would have. Yeah. But you had to stretch further than that, and they did not. So independent of how much of it is Wolf's call, and that's a fair point by you. I would say if anybody needs to grow a pair, it's ownership. I mean,
they need to be willing to spend more. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. I mean, I don't know if they will. I'm hopeful that they will, because I thought they were last year.
Yep.
Right? Like, I thought because everybody was, including Kraft himself, was pointing to Bill Belichick as to why they didn't spend a lot of money. So you're like, all right, even if that's not true, if the first year without Bill you spent a lot of money, you're like, hey, look at this. They were right. That was all Bill. But the first year you don't. Your coach is saying they're going to burn some cash at his first press conference, or his first interview anyway, after his press conference, and then he gets yelled at for that. So they didn't burn any cash.
It would have been an easy way to do it. Just it was all Bill's fault. We never spent. Now we're spending. Bill.
But if you
burn some cash,
but
if you should have, if you believe in the whatever, like 3-4 year window concept or whatever, so they spent a lot of money in 2021.
Yep.
And then to get their books right, they've gone really cheap the last 3 years.
And by the way, when you say if you believe in it, that's what Kraft said. Kraft said we want to control our spending on like a 3-year rolling.
Like, okay, then this is the year.
Yeah.
And also, if you want to make the Vrabel hire look a lot better, then you better win a bunch of games this year and get some good players.
We went through and projected our top 10 quarterbacks for 2025 in the NFL. Terp has put together a snappy graphic that's up now at Jones and Keefe.
Faces.
What's going on? I don't know if he can get this up on Twitch, but you can see it, Keefe. What's going on with my ear on the left side of my face? But if you're looking at it, the right side of it, what's going on with it?
It looks like Mick Foley's ear. It got bitten off, I think, in like a street fight.
It looks like I got like the cauliflower ear going on.
I think he had like a barbed wire match.
What's going on with that?
It's just got mangled.
You know what my ear looks like? That looks like it. You can't tell because I got the headphones on.
I don't think
you out there.
Can you not hear out of that one? It's just a show ear. There's actually, you can't even.
What's going on with that?
Just lump some clay. Slap it there on the side.
So if you can go to the Jones and Keefe timeline and get past the mangled ear situation that I have going on.
Twitch and YouTube too. The one that you just made. Throw that up there when you get a chance.
You can get past my out of control cauliflower ear there. We ranked our top quarterbacks. The top 4 are no surprise.
Two handsome devils, though.
We really are. The top 4 are no surprise.
He walked in. He goes, "I can't fit both of your heads on it, so I had to shrink it."
That's got to be my fault.
That's Keith's. It's entirely Keith's giant forehead.
That's all right.
That we got to blame for. Shout out Big Head Tony. So
I'm actually, the more I look at my list, I'm pissed.
Yeah, you should be. You hate Baker Mayfield. So we both have Patrick Mahomes 1.
draft.
You have Jackson 2. I have Allen 2. I have Jackson 3. You have Allen 3. So we have them flip 2 and 3, but same stratosphere. We both have Joe Burrow 4.
Top 4 is, I think, you got to be unanimous. I think if it's not in some order, those 4 guys, you're just going for like a hot take, or you have or you're very biased. It's those 4 guys. They're all in the AFC, and it feels like for years that's what the 4 is going to be.
Okay. Number 5, you have Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
I went Jaden Daniels. Number 6, you went Jaden Daniels. I went Baker Mayfield. You hate Baker Mayfield.
That's a good spot. Actually, maybe even a little higher.
I had a decision to make between Jaden Daniels and Baker Mayfield. I went upside there, but Jaden Daniels might have a C.J. Stroud sophomore slump. That's possible.
It's possible.
So I thought about Mayfield 6. You still didn't even have Mayfield 7. You went Jalen Hurts.
Guys in another Super Bowl.
I put Herbert there. You finally got to your guy Baker Mayfield at 8.
Too low.
I plunked down Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
And then I got to Hurts and Stroud. You got to Love and Prescott. So we have the top 4 basically the same.
For Jordan Love.
Yeah, well.
Brian came in here during the break. It was like, what the hell?
Brian came in hacked off and didn't like you having Jordan Love in there. So
I thought Love was good, no?
Well, I don't think he had a very good year, to be honest.
No, I know he didn't, but I'm projecting forward. He's 20. He's young still. It's his 3rd full year as a starter.
I'll give you this. You projected forward on Jordan Love. I did that with C.J. Stroud. Both of those take some projection. We have the top 4 the same.
Yeah.
We have 8 of the top 10 the same.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I have Hurts 9. You have Hurts 7. So what? I think Jalen Hurts is actually a very, very interesting player in the Super Bowl. We all have Saquon Barkley, Patrick Mahomes. Whether or not you think he's greater than Tom Brady, I think we all even begrudgingly acknowledge the greatness of Patrick Mahomes. So I think Jalen Hurts is probably the most polarizing player in this Super Bowl. I think we both tend to like him more than most. I think if the Eagles are going to win, I think he has another big Super Bowl. They almost beat the Chiefs in Super Bowl 57. He had a massive game. It's a long way of saying I don't think they're just going to run to it with Saquon Barkley. Their defense will have a big factor in limiting Patrick Mahomes. They need Jalen Hurts to win the Super Bowl, and I think he's capable of having that kind of big game even against a great Chiefs defense. I do.
Yeah, I think Hurts is pretty good, and I side with A.J. Brown on some of his frustrations. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is the greatest passer, but he's not the worst. He gets made out to be much worse than he really is. 2 years ago, he was the runner-up in the MVP, right? Yep. 2022, he was a runner-up in the MVP. Followed that up with a good year in 23. He's 46-20 as a starter.
He's one of 22 quarterbacks to get to 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, he's got a winning record in the playoffs. Even with a loss on Sunday, would still have a winning record in the playoffs. He is a guy that, you have to factor in sort of the total touchdowns, right? I mean, he only threw for 18 touchdowns this year, which obviously seems like it's a bit low. But then he ran in 14.
I was going to say, so he's responsible for 32 touchdowns.
And this isn't like the Cam Newton thing, because Cam Newton, we used to get in these arguments back in 2020 with Cam Newton. They're like, you guys aren't factored in the rushing ones. It's like, yeah, but even with the rushing ones, it was at 20. Remember, he threw for 8.
Yes.
So Jalen Hurts is a much better threat with his arm than somebody like 2020 Cam Newton certainly is. He is a winner. I do feel like just watching the Eagles games, there's enough big throws there. Right, we're like, oh, that's a big first down to Devontae Smith or to Dallas Goedert or A.J. Brown or whatever. So, no, I like Jalen Hurts. I do think after the top 4, there's a bit of a drop-off in the league. And then that's where you really can argue 6 different guys for the next 6 spots. You can argue their position. You can argue whether they're even in there. I'm sure people aren't as high on Herbert or Daniels that you and I are. But Hurts, I think, should be considered a top 10 quarterback in the league.
So I feel that way, and I'm surprised we're both putting him as highly as we do. I figured maybe he was top 10-ish, but I might have had him 11 or 12 when I actually sat down and did it. So names that we left off the list, Drake Maye, obviously, who we'll get to coming up. I think Drake Maye, trust me, I tried to find a way to shoehorn him in. He can't be shoehorned in to the top 10, even if you're projecting forward and projecting a better year. I think when I did it, I had him about 16th. Neither of us have Goff in the top 10.
No.
For next year. If he has another big year without Ben Johnson, I'll probably begrudgingly start putting him in the top 10. I'm a holdout there. Neither of us have Tua or Purdy. You have Dak. I don't.
Yeah.
You have Love. I don't. I have Stafford and C.J. Stroud. You don't have either of those two.
Right.
I think either way you slice it, we both probably have Drake Maye somewhere right around the midpoint, 16.
Yeah, I think he starts the year kind of middle of the pack, and then again you can kind of go up or down from there, depending on how he plays. CJ Stroud probably began the year a lot higher on most lists. You still have him at 10, but might have even been higher based off his rookie season.
Oh, I
would have
had him,
went. Yeah,
I don't even know where going into last year, higher than that for sure.
So that's why, it's like, so a guy like Matthew Stafford, I just wonder, like, projecting for next year where he's going to be. Like, does he have another year where he's a top 10 quarterback, or does he kind of fall off? The two that I think a lot of people would have on there would be Goff and Purdy. And because you're saying, all right, well, if you're looking at wins, if you're looking at stats, if you're looking at Super Bowl appearances.
If you're looking at stats, Goff is absolutely a top 10. It's everything. Completion percentage, yards, touchdowns, quarterback rate. Like, if you're looking just at stats, Goff is a no question top 10 quarterback. But I do think there's more to it.
Yeah, there definitely is. And then you look at the biggest game this season for him and how he played in that one, and you're like, all right, like, I'm curious very much how he looks without Ben Johnson next year. And maybe he's great. Maybe he's been unlocked. Maybe he just needed, Sean McVay to take over with the Rams. He sort of became a better quarterback at that point. Maybe. We'll wait and see. But I do think Drake Maye could play himself up to 10. Because right now, guys like Jordan Love and Dak Prescott coming off an injury, C.J. Stroud, Stafford, like, those guys are in either your or my top 10. I wouldn't, bet all the money I have that they're going to stay there all year. And so somebody like Drake Maye or Tua, Tua's a weird one because there are times where he does look like a top 10 quarterback, or there's times he's just hurt.
Well, but
or the team kind of.
But also, what I would say about all those guys, I'd probably expect all of them to be in the playoffs too. So, we're talking some team success with those guys, where even if Drake Maye takes a big stride in that regard, they win 9 games and sneak in as the 7th seed in the AFC. All these other guys are probably playoff quarterbacks too, and they've had good statistical individual seasons before. A lot of those guys have gotten
Burrow, right? It's the one guy this year, I think, on our list that was not a playoff quarterback. I mean, in his career he is, but this year he was not.
You're right. He's the only quarterback on my list who did not make the playoffs this year. You also had Dak.
I had Dak, but that's sort of okay, he was hurt.
Right. So, yeah, that's true. I mean, most of these guys are playoff quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. We expect them to be playoff quarterbacks. They've all had great individual seasons before. A lot of these guys have gotten MVP votes before. Dak's gotten MVP votes. Purdy's gotten MVP votes.
Hurts.
Is Goff going to get him this year? Hurts has gotten them.
No, I don't think Goff's a finalist. Didn't they announce the finalists? I think were Allen, Jackson, Saquon. Maybe Goff was the 4. I think there's 4 finalists.
So,
but yeah, he's not going to get many.
You're talking about, though, that's what these quarterbacks can do. So even if he pops for a year, and maybe that's his ceiling, but even if he does that, you're still a ways away from getting to where some of these quarterbacks have been. So, to me, I think we have him about properly rated somewhere middle of the pack. I think there's an outside chance he could make a run at the top 10, but there's a lot of work to do. Maybe we'd feel differently if they did some of that work, if Elliott Wolf, as a caller said, grew some stones and added to this team.
Not sure that's what it is, but okay.
Maybe. But I do think, based on this exercise, we both feel better about Jalen Hurts the most. I know Andy Hart, not a fan. WEEI Afternoons comes your way at 2 o'clock. He, Fitzy, and Ted getting into Super Bowl 59, along with, I'm sure, some Celtics and Bruins thoughts as well.